What if I told you that the secret to dealing with the most intimidating, most draining people in your life could be found in the writings of one of history's most famous pessimists? Yeah, it sounds completely backward, I know. But today, we're going to dive into the philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer, and you're going to see how his worldview, which seems kind of dark on the surface, actually gives us an incredibly powerful toolkit for finding our strength, our clarity, and our peace.
But first, let's just get real for a second. Think about that feeling. You know the one. You walk into a room and someone's there, and it's like the air just gets sucked out. Their gaze feels heavy. Their words, even when they're not overtly mean, somehow manage to chip away at you. And suddenly, you, a perfectly capable and intelligent person, start questioning your own judgment. It's this uniquely awful, disorienting feeling, and it's exactly what we're going to dismantle today.
All right, so the first thing you have to understand is that feeling, it is not an accident. It's not you being too sensitive, it's a system. It's a carefully constructed dynamic of control and confusion that they create. And to break free from that grip, you first have to see exactly how it works. I mean, just think about the contrast, right? When you're with your friends, people who genuinely care about you, you feel like yourself. Your thoughts are clear, you're confident, you can just be. But then you get in the presence of an intimidating person, and it's like a fog rolls into your brain. All that clarity vanishes, you're second-guessing every word you say, you feel kind of weak, easily swayed. That fog of doubt, that confusion, that is the environment where they thrive. It's the source of their power over you. And when we're lost in that fog, our instincts usually kick in, and we fall into one of two traps. The first trap is becoming overly submissive. We try to appease them, smooth things over, just make them happy so the discomfort will stop. The other trap is we swing the complete opposite way. We get aggressive. We push back hard to prove that we can't be pushed around. But here's the problem. Both of those are reactions. They aren't conscious choices we're making. They are knee-jerk reflexes born out of that intimidation. And that's why almost every time you walk away kicking yourself, right? You feel regret because you weren't in control. They were. So how do we find a third path, a way to act, not just react? Well, this is where our unlikely guide, Arthur Schopenhauer, comes in. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Schopenhauer? The guy famous for being a massive pessimist? How is he going to help? But trust me, if you look past the gloomy reputation, his philosophy is one of the most practical, resilient worldviews you can find. He gives us a new lens to see the world more clearly. And as we're about to discover, that clarity, it's a superpower. Okay, to unlock his entire toolkit, you just need to grasp this one core idea. Schopenhauer said the world basically operates on two levels. On the surface, you have what he called the representation. This is the world of appearances. It's the professional smile your boss gives you. It's the polite how are you. It's the carefully crafted Instagram profile. It's the veil, what people want you to see. But underneath all of that, driving everything, is the will. And the will is this blind, restless, relentless force. Think of it as the raw, unspoken engine of human desire, insecurity, and ego. So the representation is the show. The will is what's really going on backstage. So once you have that lens, the ability to separate the show from what's happening backstage, we can start building our toolkit. We're going to break down Schopenhauer's philosophy into 5 super practical, actionable lessons. These are going to give you your power back, not by teaching you how to fight, but by teaching you how to see the reality behind their whole performance. And here's our game plan. It's super simple. First, we'll learn to completely ignore their words and watch their actions instead. Then, we're going to look behind their intimidating mask and see the fear that's actually driving them. After that, we'll learn the secret to disarming all their drama. Then, we'll talk about accepting reality on our own terms. And finally, we're going to put their power into its proper, much, much smaller perspective. Ready? Let's go. All right, lesson number 1 is the foundation for everything else. It's learning to see past the representation to get to the will. A narcissist's words are their greatest tool of deception. They are masters of the veil. For example, a manager might go on and on about how we're a team and we're a family. That's the representation, right? It sounds great. But what are their actions? Are they creating gossip, pitting coworkers against each other, taking credit for other people's work? See, their actions reveal that their true will isn't about teamwork at all. It's about control and self-aggrandizement. So the first step to freedom is really simple, but it takes practice. Mute their words in your head. Stop listening to the performance and just watch the patterns. Actions never, ever lie. Okay, so once you start watching their actions instead of listening to their words, the next step is to understand what's actually driving those actions. And this leads us to lesson 2, which is a total game changer for your perspective.
That towering arrogance, that intimidating presence that makes you feel so small, it's not strength. It's not confidence. It's a mask.
Schopenhauer believed that the will, this engine driving us, always stems from a sense of lack, of something missing. So a narcissist's desperate, relentless need for control, for admiration, for power, it isn't proof of how great they are. It's actually proof of how profoundly empty and insecure they feel inside. Think about a historical figure like Joseph Stalin. Many historians point to his deeply wounded childhood as the root of his brutal, paranoid authority. That terrifying power was, at its core, armor. So try this. The next time you're faced with that person, imagine their arrogance is just a huge, clunky suit of armor, and inside is a small, frightened child who is terrified of being seen as insignificant. When you reframe their behavior not as strength, but as a defense mechanism for a massive insecurity, their power to intimidate you just starts to melt away. So if their arrogance is a mask, then their drama is the tool they use to make sure you never get close enough to see what's behind it. And that brings us to our third lesson. The best way to think about it is this. All of their chaos, the sudden accusations, the passive-aggressive comments, the constant provocations, every single piece of it is a fishing hook. It's cast out from their needy will in the desperate hope that you will bite. And here's the critical part. They don't care how you bite. Whether you react with anger, with tears, with a furious point-by-point defense of yourself, it's all the same to them. Any reaction is a success because it means they've hooked you. They've gotten your energy and made you a character in their play. The ancient Roman Emperor Claudius was famously, almost comically indifferent to the wild scandals of his wife Messalina. His refusal to engage in her chaos completely neutralized her attempts to manipulate him. The lesson is so powerful. You do not have to attend every argument you are invited to. Your calm, detached refusal to engage is like taking all the oxygen out of the room. Their fire just goes out. Now, refusing to get hooked by their drama is a powerful move, but it's only really possible when we fully embrace our fourth lesson. You have to stop trying to rewrite people. So much of our own pain comes from this hope, right? We hope that if we just explain ourselves better, or if we're just kinder, or if we just catch them on a good day, the narcissist will finally have a breakthrough. They'll finally see the light and show empathy. Schopenhauer would be really blunt about this. He'd say, that's like sticking your hand in a fire and being surprised when you get burned. You can't expect fire not to burn. That's its nature. But let's be crystal clear about what acceptance means here, because it's so important. Acceptance does not mean tolerating their abuse. It is not a permission slip for them to walk all over you. Not at all. Acceptance means you stop living in the fantasy that they are going to fundamentally change their nature. It means you see them clearly for who their actions have repeatedly shown you they are. And then, and this is the key, from that place of clear-eyed reality, you can make empowered choices. Choices like setting firm, non-negotiable boundaries, or maybe even the choice to walk away completely. You make choices based on reality, not on a hope that's never going to come true. And this leads us to our final and maybe most profound lesson. This is the one that zooms all the way out and puts everything in its proper place. Schopenhauer asks us to remember the one great, humbling truth that applies to everyone, from the janitor to the CEO, from you to the narcissist who intimidates you. And he frames it with a simple question. That boss who belittles you, that family member who twists every word you say, they are fragile, temporary beings just like you. Their grand performance, their carefully constructed representation of power and superiority, it's all a defense against the exact same existential fears we all face. Their power, their ego, their sneer, your anxiety, all of it will one day turn to dust. Now, this isn't about being morbid. It's about being liberated. When you remember our shared mortality, the illusion of their superiority completely dissolves. Their little power games suddenly seem very, very small, and frankly, a little ridiculous. So let's bring all of this home. Let's talk about the real goal here. The point of all this isn't to win a fight with a narcissist. You can't. The real goal is to reclaim your own inner peace. It's about being able to walk away from any interaction with them feeling centered and clear and whole, not confused, drained, and diminished. So this is the toolkit that you now have. This is what you get to carry with you from now on. It's the ability to see through their illusions, to separate their representation from their will. It's the wisdom to recognize the deep fear that's actually driving their cruelty. It's the power to simply refuse to fuel their drama. It's the strength to accept them for who they are without losing yourself in the process. And finally, it's the perspective to remember our shared fragility, which shrinks their power down to its true size.
And this brings us back to that great paradox we started with. Schopenhauer's philosophy gets labeled as pessimistic because it forces us to look at the world's harsh realities, at the relentless, selfish, striving nature of the will that drives so much human behavior. But by daring to look at that reality head-on, he gives us the most powerful gift imaginable. He gives us freedom from illusion.
And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. Real freedom from these people isn't about changing them. It's about changing how you see them. When you learn to look past the performance, when you recognize the fear behind the mask, and when you decide to detach from the drama, their power over you doesn't just shrink, it vanishes. You don't have to fight them to get your freedom back. You just have to see them clearly.